Ladies over 60, stop lying to yourself. His silence isn't because he's processing his feelings or taking things slow. At 65, if he wanted to talk to you, you'd know it. The silence is the answer. And you don't have years left to waste decoding what he's already told you. Hi, it's Vernon again. Today I'll reveal to you the 4 decisions behind a man's silence and how you can use that clarity to protect your heart and reclaim your power. We've been conditioned to believe that when a man goes quiet, it means nothing, that silence is neutral, that we should wait patiently while he figures things out. But a man's silence is never neutral. When he stops communicating, he has already made a decision about you and your relationship. The silence itself is his communication. Before we dive deep into this wisdom, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. You'll receive more grounded advice on love, dating, and emotional clarity, all tailored for the season of life you're in now. And your support helps us reach more women who need to hear these truths about love after 60. Let's talk about the first kind of silence, the one that creeps in slowly, but you feel it before you even name it.
Number 1. His silence means he's losing interest. When a man's interest begins to fade, he doesn't sit you down for an honest conversation. He doesn't say, "I'm not feeling the spark anymore," or "I think we want different things." Instead, he quietly retreats, hoping you'll get the message without him having to deliver it directly. This isn't necessarily cruelty. It's emotional cowardice disguised as kindness. He tells himself he's sparing your feelings, but really, he's protecting himself from the discomfort of your reaction. The gradual fade feels gentler to him than the sharp cut of honesty. Here's what happens in his mind. As his feelings change, he begins to see your texts as obligations rather than opportunities. Your calls feel like pressure instead of pleasure. Rather than owning this shift and communicating it clearly, he starts creating distance, responding later, keeping conversations shorter, finding reasons to be unavailable. The psychology behind this pattern runs deep. Many men have been conditioned to avoid emotional confrontations, especially ones that might result in tears, anger, or lengthy discussions about feelings. So when interest wanes, they choose what feels like the path of least resistance, the slow withdrawal. His silence is actually loud communication. Every delayed response, every shortened conversation, every excuse for why he can't see you is him telling you exactly where his heart is. The message is clear. You're no longer a priority, and he's hoping you'll accept this new reality without forcing him to say it out loud. As Maya Angelou once said, "When people show you who they are, believe them the first time." His pulling back, his shorter responses, his delayed replies, these aren't accidents or busy schedules. They're him showing you exactly where you stand in his priorities, and more importantly, showing you his character when it comes to difficult conversations. This kind of silence often leaves women questioning themselves. Did I say something wrong? Am I being too needy? Should I give him more space? But the questions you should be asking are, do I want to be with someone who handles changing feelings this way? Do I deserve someone who can communicate honestly even when it's uncomfortable? Tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced this slow fade? How did you finally recognize what was really happening? Not all silence is disinterest. Sometimes it's a sign of inner conflict.
Number 2, his silence means he's unsure and testing the space. The poet Rumi wrote, "Silence is the language of God, but it's also the language of fear." Some men retreat not because they've decided against you, but because they're testing the waters of the relationship without having to commit to anything definitive. This kind of silence is strategic, whether he's conscious of it or not. He's seeing how much effort you'll make when he stops making effort. He's testing whether you'll chase, plead, or simply accept the distance. In his mind, your response will tell him something about the dynamic he wants to create. Althea lives a few houses down from me. We've had plenty of porch conversations over the years, coffee in hand, talking about life, love, and everything in between. She is a 63-year-old retired teacher who'd been seeing Robert for 4 months. Everything felt natural and easy until he suddenly became distant. No explanation, just a shift from daily contact to radio silence. Althea's first instinct was to text more, call more, ask what was wrong. But Althea had learned something valuable from her previous relationships. When someone withdraws, matching their energy often reveals their true intentions. So instead of chasing, she pulled back too. She filled her days with friends, her art classes, her garden. She didn't block him or create drama. She simply stopped being available at his convenience. 2 weeks later, Robert called, confused and slightly panicked. "I thought you'd lost interest," he said. "I haven't heard from you." That conversation revealed everything Althea needed to know. His silence had been a test, and by not failing it, by not diminishing herself through pursuit, she'd shown him something he needed to see about her character. The lesson? Sometimes silence requires silence in return, not as punishment, but as self-preservation. And yet, sometimes silence reveals something even deeper: his fear.
Number 3, his silence means he's processing feelings. There's a particular kind of silence that comes when emotions run deeper than a man feels equipped to handle. This isn't the silence of disinterest or manipulation. It's the silence of overwhelm. He's not pulling away because he doesn't care. He's pulling away because he cares too much and doesn't know what to do with that intensity. Men of our generation weren't raised to navigate emotional complexity with words. They were taught to solve, to fix, to act, not to sit in the messy middle of feelings and talk them through. So when love feels too big, too scary, too vulnerable, silence becomes their retreat. This is the silence that often follows the most intimate moments, after he's shared something deeply personal, after you've had a conversation about the future, after sex that felt more like connection than physical release. He goes quiet not because the intimacy was wrong, but because it was so right it terrified him. The challenge for us as women is that this silence looks identical to the other kinds from the outside. The man who's processing deep feelings and the man who's losing interest both might not text for 3 days. The difference lies in everything else: his body language when you're together, the way he looks at you, whether he makes plans for the future, even if he struggles to talk about emotions in the present. This is when patience becomes an act of love. Not endless patience that abandons your own needs, but the kind of patience that holds space for someone's growth while protecting your own heart. Save this video to share with your friends and support groups of women over 60 who need to understand these relationship patterns. Eleanor Roosevelt wisely said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And no one can make you wait forever without your permission either." But there's one more kind of silence, the hardest to accept.
Number 4. His silence means he's already decided to leave. And now we come to the hardest truth of all. Sometimes his silence isn't about losing interest gradually, or testing waters, or processing emotions. Sometimes his silence is his final answer. He's already decided to leave, and the quiet is simply his way of creating distance without having to say the words that would make it official. This is the silence that stretches on for days, then weeks, then months. The silence that feels different because it is different. There's a finality to it that your heart recognizes even when your mind wants to hold on to hope. I think of Isabella. She came to one of the workshops I led a few years ago. The kind of woman who listens more than she speaks, but when she finally does, it's honest and raw. At 66, she had been seeing Nathan for 8 months. They had talked about traveling together, about spending holidays as a family unit with their grown children. The connection felt real, substantive. Then, after what seemed like a perfectly normal evening together, Robert simply disappeared into silence. Isabella waited. She sent a few gentle texts. She called once, then twice. Each attempt was met with that hollow echo of nothing. Weeks turned into months, and Isabella found herself checking her phone constantly, wondering if today would be the day he explained himself. What I want you to understand is that when a man chooses extended silence after intimacy and connection, he's already walked away emotionally. The silence isn't confusion, it's his way of ending things without having to face the discomfort of an actual conversation. You see, some people, men and women alike, would rather ghost than grieve. They'd rather disappear than deal with the messy reality of saying, "This isn't working for me," or "I've met someone else," or simply, "I'm not ready for what this was becoming." As Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." So when a man pulls away without explanation, that's not confusion, that's clarity. He's showing you he avoids responsibility when it gets uncomfortable. He's showing you your well-being isn't a priority in his world. When a person behaves that way, take it for what it is, not what you wish it could be. Isabella spent months trying to decode what went wrong, replaying their last conversation, analyzing every moment for clues. But the truth was simpler and more painful. Nothing had gone wrong that she could fix. Nathan had simply decided that whatever they had wasn't worth the effort of real communication, not even worth the respect of a proper goodbye. The silence that means "I'm already gone" has its own signature. It's not responsive to your efforts. It doesn't fluctuate with moods or circumstances. It's consistent in its absence, reliable in its distance. It's the silence of someone who has already moved on emotionally but hasn't found the courage to close the door officially. This kind of silence is actually a gift, though it doesn't feel like one. It's the universe removing someone who doesn't have the emotional maturity to handle real relationship challenges. It's life protecting you from investing more energy into someone who was never going to meet you with equal commitment. Isabella eventually stopped waiting. She deleted Robert's number, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. She realized that his silence had given her the clearest answer possible. He wasn't the man she thought he was, and she deserved someone brave enough to communicate even difficult truths. The hardest part about this kind of silence isn't the loss of him, it's the loss of who you thought he was. It's grieving the future you imagined with someone who turned out to lack the basic courage required for mature love.
We've uncovered the 4 phases of masculine silence: fading interest, testing distance, emotional processing, or an unspoken goodbye. And every one of these shapes the relationship itself, turning connection into confusion, intimacy into insecurity, and leaving you in a holding pattern instead of moving forward with clarity. Each type of silence is communication, just not the kind we're used to receiving. When you understand what his quiet is really telling you, you stop spending your precious energy trying to solve puzzles that aren't meant to be solved. You start responding to the truth that's right in front of you. A man's silence isn't mysterious. It's communication without words. And when you understand it, you stop wasting years waiting for an answer he's already given you. You stop making excuses for behavior that speaks volumes about his character and intentions. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to communicate clearly with you. Your value doesn't diminish because someone chooses distance over conversation. At 60 plus, you've earned the right to expect courage and honesty from the people who want space in your life. There's a line from Rumi that goes, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray." Sometimes what we really love is our own peace of mind, our own clarity, our own refusal to chase after people who've already shown us they're walking away. Silence may not tell you what he wants, but it always tells you what you need to know. And what you need to know is this: you deserve someone who shows up with words, with presence, with the beautiful courage it takes to build something real together. Have you found yourself caught in the confusion of masculine silence? Have you learned to read between the lines of what isn't being said? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be the beacon of clarity another woman needs to stop waiting for words that will never come. Hit that like button and subscribe to stay connected with more videos like this. Real talk about love, detachment, and self-respect for women navigating life after 60. Check the description for additional resources on building the kind of self-respect that makes silence speak volumes about his character, not yours. And I'm Vernon, and thanks for watching my video.